My name is Oyinlola Buki Akonde. I am the president of Unique Women Net.
I will worship you. I will worship you. You are greater. You are stronger. You are greater. You are stronger. None can be compared unto you. None can be compared unto you. You are the greatest. You are the strongest. You are the greatest. Oh Lord. You are the greatest. You are the strongest. None can be compared unto you. There's no one else but you. Yes, Lord, we glorify your holy name. For you are the mighty one, you are the strong one, you are the great one that can be compared unto you, oh Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Father. You are greater than the greatest. You are stronger than the strongest. You are the greatest. You are the strongest. Oh, you are greater than the greatest. You are stronger than the strongest. You are greater. You are greater. Oh, you are greater than the greatest. You are stronger than the strongest. You are greater. You are greater. Oh, Ikei Baba Seri, Ikei Mama, Hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Eka Baba Seri, Eke Mama Siri, Eke Mama.
Hello, lovely people. Welcome to the Inside View. It's such amazing, to come your way once again. And, this month, we are celebrating women across the world. We are celebrating our young girls, our aunties, our sisters, our grandmothers. And, we are just saying to each other how amazing, we are, and also how far we have come, as women. And today, on this show, we are so privileged to have an amazing woman who I passionately call Mummy. And I call her a very, breaker and also a trailblazer, because her achievements are so outstanding. And she's achieved a lot. And also, I'll say that she has become a force to reckon with, on this land. And we cannot celebrate International Women's Day or month without not celebrating this great woman. And so I have with me, today, Professor Udy Archibong, and I'll just just want to say something briefly about her because her biography is so packed that it will take about 10 minutes even to just read something about her. But I'll just something briefly about her. She's a Pro Vice Chancellor for Equality, Diversity and Inclusion at the University of Bradford. She's also a Professor of Diversity, Fellow of the Royal College of Nursing, and Fellow of the West African College of Nursing. And today we are just going to discuss her success story, her challenges, and also her inspirational career, and possibly some nuggets on thriving in life in general, especially in the area of academia. And so I'll just urge everyone to share this video for our young girls and also to our women who have actually come to the end of the road, who think, oh, I'm too old to leave to my dreams again. And I believe that by the end of this discussion, you have energy to dream again. You have the passion to aspire higher. So let's welcome our dear mother, our dear auntie, our dear grandmother, Professor Udy Archibong.
Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, all.
Oh, hi, good afternoon. I call her mommy, but I think today I'm just going to call her, Professor Udy. Just for the sake of this interview. Yeah. Mommy, pardon me.
No, not a problem at all.
Oh dear. Oh, protocols.
Also, yeah, observed, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. Um, we call you a trailblazer, and you've broken many barriers on this land, and we look up to you, and you are such a source of inspiration to many of us. We see you every day, and you give us the power and also the drive to dream and also to become like you. Um, your biography actually does not even do justice to you, but like on International Women's Month, we say thank you for making women proud, for putting Black women especially on the map, giving us our young girls the hope to dream again. So we celebrate you and we say continue to shine and continue to be the beacon that you are. Yeah. And mommy, good.
Okay,
Pardon.
everyone will understand. We will all understand.
Professor, your Professor Udy. We just want to know a bit about your background, the kind of family that you grew up in that has shaped the great woman that you are today. Please.
Well, thank you very, very much. It's always good to go back to your roots because sometimes people don't understand how that makes you the person that you are. So, I am from Nigeria, a family of 5 children, single mother, and it's been really important to remember every time in my life that the thing that mom drummed into you was life of service, life of service, life of service. That was what defined my family as I was growing up. So I started at a very young age to think about how to serve, how to support, how to be supported, because sometimes we lose sight of the fact that in order for you to serve, there has to be something about you replenishing your own internal resources. So, from a very humble background, 5 children, single mother, I started off with really thinking about where I would go in life based on mom's professional background. So I started primary, secondary education. I did extremely well in academia, but I was so keen to really learn from my mom, and that particular ethos of service to humanity led me to consider a profession of nursing. So I know you read that I'm a fellow of the West African College of Nursing, a fellow of the Royal College of Nursing. Last year, I added another fellowship, fellow of the American Academy of Nursing. That shows the passion and the love that I have for this noble profession of nursing. I still remember when mom said to me, I have been a bedside nurse. I've gone up to the level that I can get up to. But I want you to think about um, a level in nursing that you can actually actualize the process of service to humanity. And for me, that was academia, that was research, that was leadership in nursing. So I found myself very quickly after my general nursing, my midwifery education, public health nursing qualification, just jumping straight into doing my PhD because it was so crucial that in order for me to lead and to really celebrate the talent that I needed to go in there. So after my first degree at the University of Nigeria in Nsukka, when I made a first class, I was able to come straight into the University of Hull in England to study for a PhD in nursing.
Wonderful. Great. So it looks like your journey, like in the academia, was very very smooth, and I mean no hiccups whatsoever. So nursing, has been part and parcel of
Yeah.
your life, and here you are championing EDI, that's equality, diversity, and inclusion. What? I mean, that transition. What really motivated you to be a champion, or even to start to become an
Mhm.
authority in that area?
Yeah. So the emphasis on nursing is very important because it was the study of nursing and the family experience that intersected to catapult me into the PhD I did. So my stepdad lived with diabetes for a while, and unfortunately, he had a little wound on his toe, and I was there, the next of kin, waiting for dad to come out of theater, having been told that they will only carve out the gangrenous toe and not touch anything else. Dad came out of theater with his whole leg cut off below the knee. And I still remember thinking, what happened there? Because as the family member, the next of kin on his record, I was not involved in any way. So my journey to doing a PhD in nursing and moving into the discipline around diversity all started from that notion of what do we do to amplify the voices of those that are not necessarily traditional in any field of endeavor. So if you look at the healthcare, yes, we talked about family as part of the health team. Is that the reality? Because in that experience, it wasn't. So, my yearning to look at how we can amplify voices of families, in particular in healthcare delivery, was the beginning of that journey. So, I came into Hull University to look at how do you promote family centeredness in healthcare delivery and creating a framework that would help us to even cascade that into really magnifying voices of people that are minoritized.
Wonderful. When we see you, we see fashion, around you, the way you project, African beads, African, the rich culture every day, and you're not shy to wear African prints everywhere, and you are so passionate also about, academics. I just want to find out, was it just a plan right from the go, to go into academia, or it was just by a mere coincidence, because like we look at you, and then you're so also it's a bit it's very very fascinating. So we just want to know the two, how you've been able to marry the two, your fashion sense and also academics.
That's a fantastic one. So in the field that I espouse, anything to do with equity, belonging, voice, I am so particular about being yourself. And therefore, I had to particularly talk to myself about how do I project that? How do I come into a place as me, the authentic me, rather than a carbon copy of somebody else? So, in my world of work, I have always been thinking about symbolism. So,
Mm,
what that symbolic thing that will actually showcase this yearning for bringing my whole self to wherever I am. Now, other people do it in other ways, but for me, it's been really important to just turn up myself. And I think you have really observed this that sometimes, even when it's so cold, I will still turn up me because that's the only way that I can define myself, and I want people to
mm,
define me as such. So it's been an intentional approach to ensuring that I am authentic
mm.
in every space that I find myself. Sometimes I have to tell myself off by maybe I could do more, I could do less. But a part of me always wakes up in the morning really feeling I want to turn up in that particular space myself. And being myself for me is about just dressing in the way I really love to. That's the symbolism.
But you just do it beautifully, and you always look amazing. And yeah, and you know, a young girl, actually watching you, and we hardly see, people of color occupy high positions that you're occupying today. We just want to know how you became the Pro Vice Chancellor.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
for equality, diversity, and also inclusion in one of the prestigious universities in the world.
Yeah, thank you so much. So this it has been a long journey. It's been a journey of there's something about being persistent, intentional, and ensuring that you learn along the way. So it's been a journey starting from actually saying, where is the ceiling? Where am I going? What do I need to carry with me as I'm going there? What's the focus so that I can stick to that focus? Because I know I'm now talking to younger people who are listening. It's also a journey of stopping every so often to assess how am I performing in this journey. So it's something about what's my focus, how am I performing, what are my personal missions, and how do I align that with the mission of organizations that I work within. There's something about every so often replenishing your own internal resources. And there's also something about carrying people with you. And it's a two-way thing about positioning yourself to give support as well as gain support from people. It all started by me just bearing all those strategies and principles in mind, going through the motions and going from, finishing my PhD, getting on the lecturership role within higher education institution in the UK, and just traveling that journey, head of Department of Nursing, research coordinator, professor, and all the academic rungs that you can go through. And then in 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, the new Vice Chancellor, Professor Shirley Condon, uh, took over, and it was her passion with the new strategy at the time to have the infrastructure, the roles, the symbols that would help us to really hone and own our position at the University of Bradford as being leaders in everything to do with social inclusion as well as social mobility. So in 2020, having done every role that you can imagine, I've mentioned lecturership, senior lecturership, head of department, strategic advisor, a diversity champion, race champion, you name it. Um, at the time that Professor Shirley Condon took over, she really wanted to make a statement to be symbolic about her belief around equality, diversity, and inclusion being an underpinning activity at the University of Bradford. So that was the journey. And I want to emphasize some of the things that I've mentioned about staying focused, about actually defining where you are going and being intentional in getting to where you're going. But along the way, gaining support as well as supporting people. I emphasize that a great deal because sometimes we shy away from
Mm-hmm.
getting support and we just support people. Often we burn out because we're not also stopping to receive and gain the kind of help and support that we need to be able to help other people. But the other side of it is really ensuring that you're stopping and checking and replenishing your resources as you're going along. I always use the analogy of the person who announces things on the flight and comes to um, mask, face mask, and he or she instructs you that you cannot put masks on anybody else's face until you've sorted yourself out. So that is the analogy about replenishing your internal resources, because once you are replenished, then you can give. You can then be at a good position to give the best to others. So that's been the journey.
Wonderful. Yeah. I think, when we heard of EDI, it was so not common. I mean, it wasn't a known field at all. And then we had a black woman, a champion in this course. I mean, now, a renowned, person everywhere.
Mhm.
And I mean, for you, why is EDI so important? And how, has it changed over time? Because a lot of people think it's just, I mean, yeah, just something on paper. It's not something that people follow through, and just a checklist. And so I just want to find out, what do you see as the major event or trend, and
Mhm.
also how do you see EDI changing maybe the next 5 to 10 years,
Right.
especially with
Okay.
AI and everything coming on here.
Yeah, yeah. So I think the first thing is really to say that if you take issues of equity, issues of equality, issues of inclusion and belonging out of anything that you do, you are operating flat. There is no humanity in that business, because this is the whole essence of actually getting human beings to interact within a business. EDI, equality, diversity, and inclusion, is an activity of managing and ensuring people can trust, because they feel they belong, they will thrive. And when they thrive, that's when they are at their most. So, equality, diversity, and inclusion for me is more than what we see on paper.
Mm-hmm.
In my own case, I have been working at the cutting edge of actually underpinning my practice with research. So, I think I can boast that in the last how many years I have attracted more than 15 million pounds into research to look at race equality, gender equality, looking at positive action, looking at representation. In fact, challenging the notion of representation without participation. So, based on that research, I have used evidence to underpin my practice. Where do I see EDI going? I think there is a global phenomenon that is shaming the great work that we've been doing around diversity. And I pray seriously that it's a fluke. That is just that when people assume power, they get really excited, and the people around them get excited, and they lose track of the things that happen to human beings around them. And then suddenly they change their minds and start seeing humans. Because what I'm seeing in the media is where people are propagating the bad things about diversity
Yeah.
initiatives, rather than looking at the positives. So, on that basis, okay, if we look at it from that context, that things will settle, I still see a future for social justice. There's no way you can take social justice outside of our public service work, our charity work, social justice from our community work, or from our public sector work. So there is no way that issues of equality, equity, belonging, diversity, social justice, you name it, will leave us. I think there is this settling of dust that we think will happen soon. I am so hopeful. That's why on the 21st of May, I have to put this in, our Making Diversity Interventions Count conference is actually going to look at all the noises that we hear about diversity work being seen as woke, and really think about how do we reclaim that narrative? How do we challenge ourselves to get out of the negativity that we put around diversity work and start looking at the positive? Because if you take it out of the things that you do, I bet you the rate at which you're going to fall will be quicker, and it will be so difficult to maintain your client base, maintain your employees, and so on. So I think the future at the moment is bleak because of some of the noises that we see on the media internationally. But I'm very proud to say that in the UK, in our organizations, we are not doing that. And I pray that we don't. I'm still very, very reassured by the roles, the work that people in my field are doing in different organizations to shift the dial and promote staff, customer experience, and ensure that social justice is built into everything that we do in organizations.
That's very, very, very impressive. And also, congratulations for, securing over 15 million, to champion, EDI and, just bringing a lot of things to light. You know, I'll say that I'm so, um, grateful for you coming up with this conference, hopefully in May. And I pray that, like some of us will be able to use our platforms to advertise, this, to bring more awareness, like on this. Many people are using their social media to expose, the systemic, like racism. Um, but do you also admit that the current, pathways for being people or like backgrounds to success in education and work are not working? And so, like in your estimation, what can be done, to eradicate this, systemic, racism? Like the typical example, during the COVID-19, most of the healthcare, professionals that died were from, from the minority background. And so, what can we do to shift this? I would say, bias, you
Hmm.
know, from our system, and also, from institutions and also from businesses, to ensure proper equality, in our workplaces.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess if I could just um, remind people that this is not the time to take our foot off that pedal. It's definitely not the time. It is attractive because many of us who are doing this work do it um, under very, very difficult circumstances, with a lot of personal sacrifices. Because one of the things that I did in the early part of my career was really to analyze those who are in roles to do with promoting social justice, belonging, diversity, inclusion, and the like. And it all started most times when people were actually seeking their own personal survival,
Mm.
and then they made it into a profession. So you see people who are doing this work, they have personal commitment to see it work. My dilemma all the time is actually to ensure that we protect these individuals in this role because of the personal circumstances in most situations that we find for people who are in this profession. The other thing I really want to say is systemic inequity has shown itself in many, many, many ways. Everyday racism, everyday sexism and misogyny, Islamophobia, anti Semitism, and you can name it. And these are so systemic. The bottom line is that we're talking about human lives in this scenario. That people who get home and cry all night because of disparities that they're facing when there is postcode lottery in how medications are distributed, people from deprived areas not accessing particular services, which in most cases they're the ones who need it the most. It is a very, very damning thing on our humanity. But what we must not do is to give up on pushing. I say something all the time about actions at all sides, and I usually talk about a call to action which goes like this. We spend all the time just adding talcum cologne on soiled nappies
Mm.
in this particular agenda. And what we don't want is to continue to do it like that. What we need to do now is actually take out the dirty nappies.
Sure.
Let's deconstruct in order that we might put the things that we need in place. So one way of really challenging these is not to keep faffing at the ages. If we just tinker here and tinker there, it will be fine. I encourage people to just drop it, take away the problem, take away the nappies. And a nappy is a good one because none of us in our real life would ever put talcum on a baby's nappy that has poo in it. We take it out. The problem we have now is that this systemic inequality, disparities are so normalized that people cannot even smell the poo anymore.
Mm.
And what we're doing is we continue to put a little talcum, put a little perfume, put a little cologne, and so on onto the dirty nappies. And we forget that the end outcome is that human lives, humanity is being challenged on a daily basis. So, my big thing is we need to address actions to at every level of our organization. We start from senior leaders, we look at how equity, equity approach, equity lens is built into everything that we do. We come to the middle management. We look at how are you managing people? What are you cascading to people? What behaviors are you role modeling that could help the people who see you as the leaders to pick from? And then if we come to the grassroots, how are we all leading from our seats? How are we all challenging the things around us? I think the time for being just bystanders, onlookers is gone. This is the time where we just need to be upstanding. We need to be active in challenging the things that we see around us. I'm a firm believer that there's no room for non-racism, non-sexism.
Mm.
What we need is complete anti, which means that it's not just about me and what I do. It's about how I'm disrupting positively what other people are doing. That's the anti bit that we must always build into what we're doing. But maybe some people might think we have said this time and time again. Please be optimistic as I am that there are changes. I look at when I started this journey many, 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 many years ago. People could not even come together to talk about things. Never mind now that we have empowered people to ask difficult questions, hold leaders to account. So there is a shift, but we want to see more. We need to start rather than just counting heads, counting our diversity. Let's start making those head counts. When you have that diversity, what are you doing with it? You have the data. How are you using the data? And At what point are we going to say enough is enough? Now, Rosa Parks did something that I adore till this minute. That woman was not physically tired. She was mentally, emotionally tired of segregation. And
Mm.
that's why she took a stand on that bus.
Wow. I could just feel the passion, through the way you're talking, and um, we commend you for that, for being, a champion or an advocate for EDI. Since we are celebrating, women across the world, Professor Udy, like in terms of population, women are more than, men, but in the area of academia, we still have fewer or few, female professors, or even in higher, I'll say, like positions, um, in the academics.
Mhm.
What seems to be the problem? Does it really grieve your heart? And what can you, today, tell our women, and also even our young girls, what can we do to bridge, this gap, to speed up equality and also equity? Yeah.
Right, okay. So, I mean, you've just touched on a little thing that winds me up all the time. And many people hear me saying this. If you look at statistics, as at the last higher education statistics agency data, over 23,000 professors exist here in the UK. And I'm going to use just one partition, but I can do generic BME or Black minoritized ethnic backgrounds, but I'm going to narrow it to one that is very, very starking. So out of 23,000 professors in the UK, a little over 200 are Black.
Well,
That's not it. And up to the last data that I looked at, less than 60 of those were Black women. To the extent that I can tell you my number, I am number 8. I can't wait for one person to retire now because it keeps moving me up, and who knows, I might go to number 1. And so it just tells you how intense the underrepresentation is. And it's not just about having people for having them there, that's sake. It's about how they mirror the society that we all live in, the people that we want to see and come into our domain. So, what do students say, Black female students say about academia? There is this thing about you cannot be what you do not see. That is the reality. And therefore, the whole notion of not having a role model, somebody who looks like me, and that presenting the dilemma of how am I going to fare in that field, talk about engineering and not having women in there. That keeps other people from coming in to that profession because the fear of maybe it's not for people like me. I haven't seen anybody like me. What would it feel like if I need to use X during period when I am on my period? Because if they're all men, maybe there are no facilities for women to do to change to tidy themselves up when they have period. So I think there is this issue about we've seen it all. If you're not careful, it could just rub you on the wrong side to the extent of being completely paralyzed because the start is not shifting as much as it could do. But I'm so proud of this year's theme for the International Women's Day, which acknowledges that if we allow things to happen at the pace that it's happening at the moment, it will get to 2158 before we have gender balance parliament, gender balance X, gender balance Y. And then if you throw a bit of intersectionality into that, gender race based balance, you're talking many, many hundreds of years from now. So this is time for us to stop and push. We cannot wait for it to happen in on its own term. This is the time that we need to artificialize and accelerate action so that we can at least push towards the positive. So this year's theme for the International Women's Day is so apt for me because it really shows that we have to be action oriented and we've got to do things that are artificial, not the things that we just allow to happen to us. There's got to be that intentionality, and it is an activity that rests on all our shoulders. Leaders have got to take out barriers so that women can thrive in workplaces, in our community. We need to put things in place to really facilitate our achievements together. That's why accelerating action is so, so crucial.
Great. There's also, that notion that when women are so, are being given the opportunity to shine, we come up with all kinds of excuses. And so, they tend to actually just rely more on the men, So I don't know, what's your take on that? Do you think sometimes women, we make too much excuses for ourselves for not, actually grabbing the opportunities actually given to us? Do you think so?
Well, no, I'm completely against. Every time I hear people say, women lean in, let's run a springboard program so that women can learn how to be assertive. I am completely against that approach because I think women have always been leaning in. And the sad thing is, no matter how astute and assertive you are, and if you get really assertive, remember you'll be labeled that
Yeah.
angry woman.
Mm.
Um, what we should be doing is really to challenge our systems to give so that women can achieve. So women are doing what they should. And I always ask women, keep doing what you need to do to sharpen your skills, sharpen your boardroom behaviors and whatever. But we need to flip it and say to our systems, please give so that these women, and I always say, okay, let's have the we are under new management approach. If we, the systems and the people leading at senior levels and so on, can think about having an institution under new management approach, it means that you have this mentality of allowing other people to co-produce the direction or co-design how we could do this. So until the system gives, that assertive woman, that woman who is struggling to lean in, will continue to push against a very, very, very difficult door. The other thing that I would sometimes say to women and everybody is, yes, you can mentor. Yes, you can help people to get the understanding, the learning on whatever they need to. But we need to have the approach of opening those doors and keeping them open for those who are walking in for the first time. It's called sponsorship. So, how many people are you sponsoring as a leader, men and women? And by sponsoring, we're not asking you to get people to jump the queue. They've got the skills, they've got the knowledge, they've got the experience, and you take them into spaces and sit with them, hold their hands because they've never been there before. Challenge every attempt to undermine them. Because if you don't do that, they will walk into that boardroom and they will be so shaken by that experience, they will not come back into that boardroom. And sadly, what we then do is they're not capable of holding it together. No, you have just literally kicked them out of that space by that behavior. So I preach and say all the time, please, please, can we be sponsors? Yes, let's mentor behind the scene, but take it the next level, which is actually taking people to places where they need to be.
Wonderful. Someone might, I also think that not everyone is so resilient like you. And, we just want to know, the challenges that you've actually faced along the way. Because being a woman and also a woman of color. That alone, adds it, a lot of, like impediments, like in your way. What are some of the challenges that you've actually faced, in your academia journey, and
Mm.
also how have you managed to overcome, if not all, some of the challenges that you've encountered? Yeah.
So I think the first one for me will be isolation.
Mm.
Um, and I don't take this lightly because isolation presents itself in different ways. So you suddenly find yourself that you are in a world that is apart from the world of other people. And the sad thing is it's on both sides. So if you are somebody who is minoritized and you're always one of the very few in a situation, you find that in the other group, they think you don't belong, and then you come back to this other group, you don't belong. And so, one way I have been working on this really is to form, um, I think, networks around me on all sides so that we have an open conversation and talk about how best to do this. The other thing, challenge for me has been the expectation that I will be like the other. Because remember, there are few of you when you are in that marginalization or minoritized position. There are so few of you. And there is this expectation that you'll be like the other because there are just so few of you. And nobody should understand that you are so authentic in the way you're going to come in here. So there is this expectation that if the other person speaks like this, speak things like this, do things like this, you're going to be like them. That is a very, very challenging one because you feel like you want to say every time, I am not like, please, can I just be myself in this place? And sometimes I do it in a very, very diplomatic way. The other thing has been a backlash. Another big challenge for me is the backlash. The fact that when organizations are looking at work to ensure that the system is ready for non traditional leaders, they do not often think about what if. What if people start saying that Udy has got that role because she's a black woman, she's not capable of doing it, and so on? What's the response of the organization? They shouldn't be waiting for that to happen. They have to be proactive enough to actually showcase how qualified that non traditional person is and also be ready to support them. The other thing is a massive challenge for me is how you balance the positionality that I talked about. How do you balance caring for others and caring for yourself?
Mm.
Because there will come a time when caring for others will hurt you.
Yeah.
At what point do you say, I'm just gonna self-preserve now and then I'll return to caring for others. I have seen that time and time and time again. And it is something that I'm consciously challenging myself all the time to know when to turn around and just support myself and receive support from others and then re engage because it doesn't help anybody if you should burn out. The other bit is the horizontal hostility. Now, because people have been so minoritized, marginalized, um, discriminated against, they suddenly internalize that oppression that sometimes they don't know the boundaries. So
Mm.
you find that the few non traditional leaders who are in that boardroom are the ones that are being seen to be selling people out. So you find that members of your community start doubting what you might be doing in that boardroom because as far as they're concerned,
Mm.
it's either all of us should be there at the same time or you should be defending us enough that there's no problem at all. I still remember when Obama became the president of the US. I had a very heated conversation with a colleague who felt that Obama should just crack it, everything about police brutality on African Americans and so on should just stop because Obama is a biracial man. Now, it doesn't work like that. It's
No.
taken so long for the collection of that inequality, disparity, systemic issue to carry on. You don't expect him to come in within the first few months of being the president, just resolve everything. Could he have done certain things better? Yes, he should have done. But the general horizontal hostility that comes from either you shouldn't be there, or because you're there, you should just resolve everything outright. Those are a few of my challenges, and I have burnout as a big one, not for me, but for other people who are not playing it right. I always say to people, if you adopt a confrontational approach to manage this work that we do, you are going to be the first one out. I know how I'm managing myself. I play by sitting next to Nelly, getting people to engage rather than being confrontational. That is my approach. That doesn't stop me from being very firm when I'm holding people to account. But I'm not going to angrily just go, because it is a very painful place to be
Yeah, yeah,
when
and
you see inequality staring at your face. The last thing you want is to jump in with that pain, because then you become that very angry person, and that's not going to help your health, and
no,
then you burn out and you get ill. So those are a few challenges and a few advice on how best to manage them.
wonderful. To anyone watching us, Professor Udy is also an MBA. Professor Udy, how was the feeling like when you got this invitation
Mm,
to be honored,
mm.
by the Queen, the late Queen?
Yeah,
How
yeah.
was it? And
How
share with us, the feeling, the euphoria, and everything. If you can share with us. Since we are celebrating you, we need
yeah,
to, highlight
yeah,
every wonderful achievement that you've actually achieved. Yeah.
yeah. So the journey of that MBE was really exciting, in the sense that um, if I hadn't had the encounter I had with my one of my sponsors, one of my life mentors, a few months before I got my letter, maybe I would have been in a different place. So I spent time with my colleague, Professor Carol Baxter, just looking at what are the things that you could really use as leverage to take the agenda forward. And we got into the conversation about um, if you were invited to take up honors, what would that mean? And I spent time with her just reflecting on this, because she had also been through the journey herself. And I got to the realization that there are things I will not be able to do if I say no to this. And I
Mm.
was really pleased that when I came back from an international trip, saw the letter, told to keep it quiet, I spent some time reflecting some more. And the acknowledgement that it would be about higher education and equalities was so, so good for me. Because what that meant was that this is a tool that will take you to places that you can um, really champion the agenda some more. And since I got to that realization, it made it a lot easy for me to say yes. And I have been very fortunate to use it as a tool to actually get the message out there, be involved in things. I have been challenged by a colleague who said, well, how can you talk about decolonizing when you have gone in to pick up one of these gongs? And I still remember smiling, and I said, well, you've got to be in there to be able to
Yeah.
change things,
Yeah.
though. If for any reason you want to change from outside all the time, there are times that you have to change from outside, but you cannot do it for everything. For my agenda, it's important that I'm in there, I'm able to get in and talk to the people that I need to talk to be able to advance the agenda.
Great. Um, you know, I would say that like you're gradually just coming to the end of our discussion, but we just want you to share with us how you managed to juggle your busy lives, lifestyle, being a mother, being, all sorts to, all of us. How have you managed to, do all these things and still stay on top of your game? I mean, we just want to share. Please share those nuggets with us because
Yeah.
we want to, be like you. I mean, I mean, more of you.
Yeah. I think the first thing is just to just recognize and accept that be made. You've got to think about the different parts, and if it's at all possible, to try and apportion some percentage engagement. Now, that sounds fake, but it does happen where you actually consciously say, I am a mom and I will definitely perform those duties. I am a person of um, faith. I will definitely give time to do that. And then you sit and think through how you juggle it in such a way that one may suffer, but not to the detriment that you don't want. So it's that conscious effort to make sure that you literally take authority over the different partitions of your life and make sure that you get to a point where you can say, honestly, I can't do that now, but I'll do it later because I've got X to do. I've got to do something that is primarily what must be done now. So it's having that discipline of um, mixing, matching things, but being honest in how you can also say, I can't do all, I can't do that particular one. Recently, I've been going through a lesson of saying no. It's not easy, but it's being able to say, no, I can't do that today because I have already committed to being a grandmother.
Oh, congratulations on that. Wow. Before you go, what is your message for the young girls? I mean, how can our young girls utilize the opportunities and also abilities to create a positive impact?
My first message to young girls would be, you are not an accident, you are a member of our humanity. So that confidence in who you are, the authentic self, and making sure that that's what you're charting. The other thing I'm going to say to young people is, in every situation you find yourself, you need to ask yourself, why am I here? What's the why? What's the purpose? And how does that link to the overall things that I want to get out of this life? Yes, some people might argue, but they're too young to think about that. No, you can think about your why. The other thing is to be supremely positioned to be able to be other focused as well as looking at yourself in that picture. I would employ young girls to also stand back and say, what do I want to do going forward? And how do I stop distractions from other people who are not in the why with me? So peer influence is very, very top up there, but you need to resist. And that resisting it sometimes might mean actually saying, what do I want in this particular situation? It's not about what your friends want, it's about what you want. And then the other thing that I'll say to young people is, please tell your story and listen to stories. Storytelling is so important.
Wow.
Listen to people who've been there, who are doing it. You don't have to take everything they tell you, but you can take some things that they tell you and make sure that that becomes part of your portfolio of how to carry on. These are the behaviors that deeply inspire you and inspire others.
Wonderful. Since we are celebrating International Women's Month, what is your final message? As we accelerate action, what do you say to women across the world, especially women, in the war-torn areas, women who have been abused, battered, and everything? What is your message? Yes, to them.
Yeah, my big message to women is, please don't blame yourself for the situation that you find yourself. Do not, because we do that very silly, in the sense that you start feeling guilty. Oh, I may have done this for this to happen to me. Please, no, it's nothing to do with you. is to do with the senseless world. The other thing to tell you is that, yes, numbers in terms of how many women we have, we are more than the number of men around us. And therefore, sometimes we just need to think about, how do we collaborate more? How do we come together more? How do we network more to see if there can be any power in the collective voice that we have? And lastly, I am going to say to you, in accelerating action, please ask and hold people to account. Make sure that wherever you find yourself, you are asking the difficult question, why is this happening to us now? Why have we got so many cases of rape in our community? Why have we got so few women in politics in our community? Why have we got so few women in policy making roles in our communities? Ask yourself the question, why is it that when there are issues concerning us in the family, I'm not allowed to have a voice? Ask those questions. And remember, networking with other women so that you can have a more collective voice to help us hold our leaders to account.
Thank you so much. Considering how busy you are, you still managed to share some nuggets with us. I have a lot of questions here, but I think maybe another time.
Yes, thank you
Yeah,
very much. Yeah,
oh, yes, because of time. And we say thank you and we celebrate you. And
thank you very much.
anyone that has never heard of Professor Udy Archibong, please log on to her page, read a lot about her. You'll be inspired. And if you have never dreamed before, trust me, after reading her bio, it will challenge you to read more. And we celebrate you, Mommy.
Thank
And
you
we
very
say,
much.
keep inspiring us,
Thank you.
keeping on.
Yeah.
And on behalf of all women across the world, we say, well done.
Thank you very much.
Well
Happy
done.
Women's History Month.
Yeah, yeah, well
Okay.
done. Well
Okay.
done. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye.